What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I am your host, as always. My name is Clint, and this show is presented to you by Odds.com. How's everybody doing on a Monday afternoon? Welcome in the chat. We've already got 100 live viewers. I love it. We've got 2KJ, Michael Lopez, Grateful Dude, Damien HD, Kevin Wallace, Boston Nick MMA, my fan, my buddy. What is up? Taylor Matthews, Brandon Best. We've got Bookie Killers. We've got UFC Betting Experience. What's up, everybody? Raj, my boy. Young Chillionaire. Woo! How is everybody feeling? It feels good to be back in the pilot seat right here. I love this show. Look forward to Mondays every single week. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. First and foremost, do me a favor. Hit that retweet over on Twitter. Let everybody else know that we are live. Give the show a share. Get some people in here. The best thing you can do to support us here at Odds and to support me is to go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to Odds HQ and let everybody know what's up. How's it going, Nicholas, Bobby, Frank Groots? We've got Raj. I already mentioned you, my friend. You get a double shout out apparently because this chat is flying. Rod Z, what's up, buddy? Alex Ramirez. We've got Bobby Funk, Groots, Booty Hole Sniffer, Brian Kutona, Zach Samarowski. Man, going hard on these names here. It's quick. Omar! What's up? How's everybody doing? I am on top of the world right now. We went to absolute war with the bookie on Saturday. We were trading body blows, and we somehow barely managed to come out on top. It was a fun night. It was a bit of a roller coaster. Hey. Sound is on point. That's what I like to hear, baby. Let's go. I worked hard on that one. All right. So what we got to do, we got a lot to talk about going back over the last event. We had a whole bunch of action. We need to touch on those spots, those bets, see if we can find a couple spots we can learn from, as always, before we move forward. So make sure you buckle in here because we're going to fire through the recap as quick as possible. I'm going to try and keep it under my usual half-hour mark there. Daniel Brandt, my man, loaded up, love to hear that. That is gorgeous, my friend. Congratulations. So happy to stick that in your pocket. Skywalker, buddy, I saw you're in the chat here somewhere. Love it. Okay, so no more wasting time. Got to kick some ass and get right on through this thing. We had one hell of a fight night last weekend. So tons of fun action. Lots of crazy stuff going on. I left a couple spots on the table, unfortunately. I felt like I had too many plays already, so there were a couple of them that I missed out on, and that is kind of my bad. That's one of those things where I never know how much action I want to spread. Like, I had a ton of bets already, but I felt like there were a couple other ones that I could have made and ended up missing out. Anyway, we'll talk about it. We kicked the night off with Nathan Wood taking on John Castaneda. This is one that I thought Nathan Wood by decision was a perfect prop bet. We got a huge favorite that you don't want to lay that kind of chalk on. Doesn't do a good job for you in parlays, things like that, but we absolutely could have taken him at even money or slight plus money by decision, and sure enough, that's how that one played out. So I feel like that's one of the ones I kind of left on the table. Same exact situation with Ramazan Ameev. Now that fight got a little bit hairy. Nicholas Stolze was a bit of a wild card for me, so I didn't really want to touch that one, but kind of the same lean there. I could have taken both of those prop shots, I think, and done okay. Then we've got Betch Kohea, Piani Kanzad, first bet of the night, and I was scared. Just like everybody else, I'm sitting there remembering the Molly McCann situation, and yeah, I was a little with the flood of money that came in on Piani, but it was well-deserved, and she was the favorite here. She should have gotten the job done. It was perfect. Got our night started the right way. We flipped right around, leaving money on the table again with Tanner Boser. His situation, the quick turnaround, we've seen a couple of other people fail in that position, so I didn't want to really trust him at that line, but apparently we were a little nervous over nothing. He came out and handled Pessoa, absolutely handled him. I didn't want to go back to the well with the knockout prop just because he's not really a knockout guy, Boser, to just crush it again, but he did. So props to anybody that played on Boser. Desharp's action, my friend, what time does the recap end? It's fluid, buddy. We go through the previous card, and it really depends on how many bets we had. This week we had a lot of bets. Again, we got a big card to go over for this Saturday, so I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible, but it usually lasts about 10 minutes or so. So, yeah, we missed out a little bit on Tanner Boser, but say Levy is what it is. Movsar Evloev, Mike Grundy. This was our first underdog bet of the night, and you know what? I had this feeling that dogs were barking last week, and I was very, very wrong. It was a very chalky card. So Grundy came out and looked so good in the first round. Gets the man in a deep darce, and he was struggling. They zoom in on Movsar's face, and he's doing this thing trying to get out of it. I mean, whoo! That was, you know what? We had plus 180 on Grundy. We beat the line move on Grundy. And I tell you guys, always, just like poker, when you've got pocket kings, all you can do is put your money in a good spot. If your opponent happens to have pocket aces, it doesn't matter. You made the best decision you could. You got your money in, and he had the worst possible outcome for you. And that's just gambling, folks. That's how it goes sometimes. The best gamblers in the world are shooting to win 55 or 60% of the time. So we're gonna lose a lot. Taking this shot here, we beat the line movement. That's all you can do in sports betting. And then we had a live fighter who damn near finished the fight in the first round. We got what we wanted. Movsar Evloev is a phenomenal piece of work, and he managed to dig deep, survive the submission attack, and then take over in the rounds after that. So just an unfortunate run out, because we would have been sitting here patting ourselves on the back if Grundy had gotten the tap in that first round. So try not to be too results oriented there. I think we had some value still on that plus 180 line, but Evloev really impressed me with that performance. He did way more than I expected. His striking was way more fluid than I expected, and I've been high on him. So for him to impress me like that, he had a damn good performance. Tom Aspinall, late edition bet here. We just laid the chalk at minus 225, and that was, again, a bit of a mistake on my part because I knew he was going to finish this fight. You could have gotten Tom Aspinall by finish inside the distance at about minus 110, minus 115, and we should have hammered that. Instead of laying 2.25 units, I should have put like a 2 or even a 3 times bet down on inside the distance, because when we watched the weigh-ins, his opponent, Jake Collier, he straight rolled off the couch for this fight, folks. He was up 2 full weight classes, rolling at the maximum of the heavyweight division, 265. We knew that this was going to get ugly, and unfortunately, we only gained about a half unit on it because we ended up taking that sub prop. That sub prop never had a chance. Now, I still like the angle. Don't get me wrong. I still like the angle. We are 1-2 on those long shot sub props, but he crushed him. I mean, he came out and the first punch dropped him, and it was all over already. Really, what I should have done, and I actually looked at this. Hindsight, obviously, is always 20/20, but I looked at Aspinall winning within 60 seconds. I know there are some books out there that have the ex-opponent to win in 60 seconds, and I think he was 5-1, and I just didn't think that was juicy enough. I thought that was one to look at, and I considered giving that a go, but I was like, 5-1, it just doesn't seem like it's that good. And if this guy just lasts, if they end up grappling like I kind of was hoping they would, and he lasts a minute and a half, we're just burning money there. And so I didn't take the shot, but damn, that would have been a sharp play if you had taken the stab on that one. So the fight that basically ruined everybody's night, Nicholas Dalby taking on Jesse Ronson. Ronson showed up, folks, and right before that knockout hit, I tweeted, he is flowing right now. Like, it was completely surprising to me, and this is why you got to be careful with these gigantic favorites, man. One of them always shits the bed. Always. You cannot count the underdogs out forever. Somebody's going to show up. And Nicholas Dalby, he's just not a minus 500 favorite type of guy. He's not a fighter on the level of Movsar Evloev. He's not a fighter on the level of Nathaniel Wood. He's a mid-tier fighter himself, welcoming another mid-tier fighter. So, I mean, that was one I'm so happy we dodged that bullet and stayed away. I see all the comments in the chat. I'm so sorry that y'all got burned on that one, but I'm hoping I was able to talk some people into passing on that fight, because that was a fireball and popcorn fight if I have ever seen one. Speaking of fireball and popcorn, check the goods. Yeah, baby. Oh, brand new shirts in. The boys over at Pub Sports Radio are handling the t-shirts for us. If you want one of these bad boys for yourself and they are nice, head on over there and order you a t-shirt. We've got the classic Die Hard MMA podcast logos over there as well. Kicking off not kicking off, sorry, finalizing the prelims was Francisco Trinaldo versus Jai Herbert. And we had Herbert at plus 145. Now, this one hurts. This one really hurts because, once again, we did everything perfect. We spotted a live dog. We beat a huge line movement. He closed as the favorite in this fight. And he did everything right. He almost got the finish. He dropped Trinaldo multiple times. And it looked like he was well on his way, coasting to a win. And then the bomb from hell, Trinaldo smashes him on the dome with this giant overhand bomb. Holy crap. I mean, that's the kind of knockout. That's why we love MMA. It's so hard to bet on sometimes because, like I said, we did everything right. And we talk about variance. We've been getting a lot of good swings lately. We've been getting a lot of good dogs bounce our way. And this was one where variance went the other direction. We did everything perfectly right. We picked the guy that was supposed to win the fight. He had every advantage in the book. And Trinaldo just found a way. So that one hurt. We ate a little bit of crow on that one, but it's okay. We turned it around. We went over to the main event. Khamzat Chimaev, the new hottest prospect on the scene, the new best UFC fighter we could imagine. Dude comes out here and does exactly what we talked about. He takes Rhys McKee down, and I knew he was looking for that ground and pound finish. We saw it in the Phillips fight. We had him locked up by KO. The only way that you could get Khamzat Chimaev in plus money by knockout, and we locked him up, folks. The diehards got plus money on a 12-1 favorite, and we cashed it. Who else out there is doing that crap? Not many people, I'll tell you that. I will tell you that. So that got my blood boiling. I'm good to go. We're positive again. We're bouncing around. We're trading those body shots with the bookie. And then Peter Sobotta comes out and absolutely shits the bed. This was the bad bet of the card. And this is where I can't even sit here and try and justify my position on Peter Sobotta. Pre-flop, all the stuff I said made sense. But the fight played out worse than I ever could have imagined. It was the worst night Sobotta's ever had in the cage, and it was the best night that Alex Oliveira has ever had in the cage. He showed good, solid fight IQ. He was so physically powerful. There was no way Peter Sobotta had any opportunity to initiate the grappling, which that was the only path to victory we really had. And I thought his boxing was going to be better. He talked a lot about how his improved boxing was going to be shown off. It was going to be a big deal. He was living with his boxing coach for a year, and then he could barely strike with Alex Oliveira distance, was stuck at range, getting body kicked. Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. We should have passed on that one, and yeah, that's my bad. And then Paul Berju Craig. This is another left money on the table spot. Paul gets the submission within 2 minutes. Oh, and I knew he was going to. We talked about it on the podcast. I thought this was maybe a perfect buy low spot on Paul Craig, and I absolutely should have pulled the trigger. And the submission prop was like 2-1. I mean, man, everything was just wrong on this one. I knew, and I talked about it, and the lean was there, and I hope people cashed in on it because I said that's what I thought was going to happen, but like I said, this is one where I've trusted Paul Craig in too many circumstances, and I couldn't do it again, even though this was the position to trust him in. So felt really dumb not winning on that one, so I hope some people cashed on that. Carlos Esparza taking on Marina Rodriguez. This is where the night got sketchy for us. My 2 times play, Marina Rodriguez, minus 165. I said first and foremost last week that I thought Carla Esparza was the live dog here. I thought she was the side, and I decided to pass. I decided to make it a fireball and popcorn fight, if you will. And then somehow I talked myself into playing Rodriguez. And you know what? Rodriguez should have knocked her out. This was a disgusting spot where Rodriguez, apparently getting 2 draws from wrestling heavy approaches, wasn't enough for her. Now, I talked with the Pub Sports Radio boys live on stream about this. It is so hard to time improvements on fighters because some of them, you're timing that drop off the cliff moment and fading them, and then others, you're timing the improvements where they're really ramping up and hitting that turn and going to the next level. And I think Rodriguez should have hit that turn here in this fight. She won the fight. Let's be real. Marina Rodriguez won the fight. But Carla Esparza won the match, and that's where this is a bit of a problem. When you look at their faces at the end of that fight, one girl won, and it definitely was not Carla. But because this is a game, because this is a sport, because this is round betting, Carla got enough in there to get it done, and we almost got a split decision judges robbery. I was praying so hard because I think Rodriguez did enough to come back and win round one with the damage that she did. And the same thing in round two. She came back and she did damage, but it wasn't quite enough to steal the round, apparently. One judge thought it was. We just needed one more judge to give us that second round for a victory there. But I cannot believe that her coaches have not called up Ben Askren and been like, hey, come here, bro. We're going to pay you $1 million to take her down for 6 months. That's it. That's all we're going to do. Just train takedown defense and get up game for 6 months. If they do that, Rodriguez is going to be a monster. And I thought after the last two fights, that for sure was going to be the path here, but I guess not. So here we get fun, all right? We get crushed on Carla Esparza, ruining our apple pie for the evening, and I've got my head in my hands. I'm like, oh my God, like, I like my bet here on Fabricio Verdum, but I don't like it that much. It wasn't supposed to be the thing that saved me. It was supposed to be the icing on the cake for our night. But sure enough, Fabricio freaking Verdum comes out and he submits Gustafsson in the first freaking round. And I told you all I was looking for any opportunity, absolutely any opportunity to bet Fabricio Verdum, and the weigh-ins did it for us. Saw the fire in that man's eyes, and I knew we had a bet. It's so, so good. Let's just take a second and pause right there. Can we talk about the post-weigh-in video? People in the comments are crapping on me for making reads based on the weigh-ins, but holy shit, we are rolling on the post-weigh-in video. We doubled up on Cynthia Calvillo. We doubled up on Jillian Robertson. We added Tom Aspinall inside the distance for most people. We added Fabricio freaking Verdum at plus 270. I mean, there are others in there that I'm not remembering. We're going to need to start tracking simply the post-weigh-in video record because it has been crushing. And this week it saved us. Adding Tom Aspinall and adding Fabricio Verdum is the only reason we made it out of this week alive. So then we get to the main event, Whittaker versus Till. I mean, hell of a fight. Excellent fight. It went exactly the way I expected it to go. Whittaker got the thing done. I felt like where the line closed, minus 170, minus 180, somewhere around that ballpark. Yes, Undertaker, Lazez, thank you. Lazez was another late addition that we've been crushing it on. That was another one. So yeah, Whittaker gets it done. The Reaper finishes it up, and that was perfect. I mean, he played that fight perfectly, in my opinion, stayed safe, showed that veteran savvy, and another fade on Till gets through. I'm happy whenever that happens. Whenever I mark these fighters as, people I'm not sold on, when you can mark someone as a bet on, it's just as good as when you can mark someone as a bet against, because those angles are something that you can change up going forward, back and forth, and it just pays out. I love it. So that's it. That's the recap. We kept it at 19 minutes with the welcoming of the chat, which took 4 or 5 minutes, so that's not too bad. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the show. I appreciate you all sticking with me. As you can see right here, we've got the action that I have already locked in, ticking down on the bottom, so if you want to make those bets, here's what we're going to talk about so far this evening. We're going to start breaking down this fight card, gonna get this thing rolling. But first and foremost, I do have to say, check out the boys over at GOATCapitalSports.com. They have been a partner here with me on the Die Hard MMA podcast for a very long, long time. They are giving out free plays, KBO, MLB, soccer. They're crushing it. The free plays have an incredible record, and I think they've got a package as low as $10 a month or something. So check them out. Tell them Clint sent you. GOATCapitalSports.com. They are some seriously good guys. I enjoy them. So unfortunately, this wraps up Fight Island, right? We had 3 events. We're over in Abu Dhabi. Fight Island is over, so I got to get rid of my beach here, and I'm going to miss this, folks. This helps me relax. I feel at peace when I sit down to this. We're headed back to Vegas, baby. We are headed back to the Apex, and we're going home. I wish I could go to Vegas. I miss this place. So we are headed to the Apex. and we're headed on to UFC Apex 5, breaking this bad boy down. Oh, I forgot to, we went 5-4 last week for plus 0.4 units. So less than a unit win, less than a unit loss. I will always take it. The official 2020 record so far, folks, 66 wins, 57 losses, plus 7.28 units. And I know that doesn't sound impressive whatsoever, but for those of you that are new to the show, I dug myself a 16-unit hole to start the year. I got crushed for the first 3 months in the UFC, so we have dug out of a 15-unit hole and are now up over 7 units, so nothing to shake a finger at. Nicholas, go Capital Sports, that's what's up. Yep, Bobby Knuckles saved in the night. I love it. All right. How is everybody doing? That is right, Frank. We love the small cage at the Apex. Let's make unders great again, folks. Remember, when we're in the UFC, when we're at the Apex, they shrink the cage down to fit that area. And because of that, there is a crap ton of action. These fighters have nowhere to go. And remember, we have to go back to fading grapplers. The other thing we need to recall is that the judging is something we have to take into account here, because we figured out the judges over at Fight Island. We knew we were getting the same people, the same style, the same setup, but unfortunately, we are losing that now. So that volume striking that we talked about relying on the last couple weeks and we cashed in on a regular basis, we got to kind of edit that. We got to kind of tweak that, because now we're in Vegas. We don't have those same judges anymore. So let's keep an eye out on this stuff. Jay Patel, my buddy. We don't use the L word on this show. Love you. Thank you for tuning in, man. There's no such thing as a lock in MMA. As we have seen, minus 400, minus 500 favorites, they get crushed on a weekly basis. Kool-Aid buddy, what's up? The Clint cult in the house. Oh, I love it. All right, let's go. We've got Chris Gutierrez taking on Cody Durden. Now, this is the first fight of the evening and one that I'm going to need a little bit more time on. I didn't have a super great read on this one because I can't find tape on Cody Durden. There's not a lot out there. This kid so far is seemingly impressive, 11-2. He looks like he's legit, but I've got to find his last couple fights and see where he's at right now. He's coming in here hot, taking on Chris Gutierrez, 15-3-0, and we saw Chris really level up the last time he was in the cage. He got that TKO win, and it was due to leg kicks over a very impressive fighter, a fighter that I had marked as a bet on. So Chris Gutierrez riding high, and because of that, the books, I feel like, are almost overvaluing him right now. He's a minus 330 favorite. I don't know if he should be that big of a favorite, so kind of the only way I'm looking right now is dog or pass, but I've got to find the information on Cody. I've got to be able to see this kid work before I can say I want to bet him. So even though we've got a juicy line here, we might have an early fireball and popcorn pass type of fight here, simply because, yeah, I mean, in MMA, you're only as good as your last fight. So right now, Chris's stock is as high as it's ever been. But he deserves it. He deserves it, right? We saw some serious improvements from him in his last fight. So I don't know. That one we're going to go ahead and just put a hold on. I've got to do some more research. We will see a little bit later in the week. And you know how you can find my bets when I do decide to lock them in, when I do decide to play them. At Diehard MMA Pod is my Twitter handle. Give me a follow over there. And then, of course, I'll have my articles coming out over at odds.com. If you can go check those out as well, that helps me out a ton. Thank you very much. Second fight of the evening, Jamall Emmers taking on Timur Valiev. This is a extremely interesting fight to get us started here. Jamall Emmers is 17-5. Timur is a UFC debutant here. He is 16-2, and this kid looks to have the goods, all right? Jamall Emmers, good in and out movement, really light on his feet. He uses front kicks and low kicks to control the range. He fights well, long behind a jab. He does a really good job in the clinch. He's got these big, powerful clinch knees, good head movement, and he's got great timing on his takedowns. All in all, I'm a fan of Jamall Emmers. I think this is a good kid. I think he fights extremely well, and I'm kind of looking forward to betting on him in the future. I just don't know if this is particularly the spot. He is dropping down to 135. He's a normal 145 fighter, and he's searching for that UFC victory, so he's dropping a weight class, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. He does have, I think, a size advantage here over Timur, but it's not overly significant. And like I said, Timur is legit. And just for Jamall's second UFC fight, now let's rewind here a little bit. In his UFC debut, he fought Giga Chikadze and he lost via split decision. I think he won that fight. I really do. I'm first and foremost not high on Giga Chikadze, but I really think Emmers won that fight. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure how I feel about him. I think it's a little too early, so I think this is going to be a fireball and popcorn fight for me. I'm just going to take some notes. I'm going to watch these guys. I'm going to see where they're at. I do not like laying chalk on a guy coming in for his UFC debut, unless it's somebody like, Archimiev, who we absolutely know is going to just crush. Timur seems legit, but he's got to prove it. You know what I mean? I've got to see him in the UFC against UFC level opponents. Now, he's been training with, I think, Umar Nurmagomedov. He trains out of Jackson Wink MMA, which they've been kind of doing this. So not sure if that is a good one or a bad one there for his gym he's coming out of. He does a good job of mixing up the striking. He's got heavy, heavy leg kicks, which I love to see. Those are best weapon in MMA. Big looping punches that he fires. He also controls the range very well and also has excellent timing. When he gets his opponents up against the cage, when he gets them hurt, he's got that killer instinct. He flurries. He hurts these people. Big clinch knees, heavy ground and pound. I mean, I think Timur might be the goods. So early on, I leaned at taking a stab at Jamall Emmers at plus 170, and I think I've just ended up passing because, like I said before, I am not going to trust a UFC debuting fighter at minus 200. Not in this spot, because I think Emmers moving down a weight class, that'll give him some size advantages. We don't know how that weight cut's going to go. Anyway, I'm going in circles. Let's move on. I think we're going to see a lot of chalk this week, folks. I hate to say it. I'm a dog hunter. I'm always trying to find those big, juicy dogs like Fabricio Verdum. But I think this is going to be a very, very chalky UFC event. We've got Eric Spicely taking on Markus Perez, and I like this fight, you guys. I really like this fight a lot. Eric Spicely is one of these fighters that I have labeled as a fade. I want to bet against this guy. I think there's good money to be made. I don't think he's UFC caliber. He's got all the skills, but he just can't seem to put it together at the top level. Now, one thing I do want to go ahead and mention here for the people, especially who are newer to the show, I respect all these UFC fighters, men, women, all of them. If you've got the balls and the ability to step in the cage and do what you do in front of this crowd, like, we're breaking this down from a betting perspective. So I have to turn over every stone. I have to talk about the strengths and weaknesses, the things I think you're bad at. So don't think that I'm trying to talk crap on these fighters, because I'm really not. I respect every single one of them for doing what they do, and I greatly appreciate them. It's my favorite sport in the world. That said, I think Eric Spicely sucks. He gets hit a lot. That's really all it comes down to. This guy is not defensively sound whatsoever. He's 12-5. He went on a 3-fight losing streak. All 3 of those fight losses coming via finish the last time he was in the UFC. Hops on out to the regional scene, knocks out a couple of bums, comes in, and then has an uninspiring loss to Deron Winn, who, I mean, now, I say uninspiring, but I guess it was a hell of a fight. They went back and forth. They went to war. But Deron Winn is the smallest guy in the division, and Eric Spicely is huge. And he could not get that fight done and lost a decision. So not impressed with him whatsoever. He's strong in the clinch. He's got big knees. That's really his best weapon. He does wing these big power hooks. He can clip people for sure. He's got good elbows in the clinch. He bullies people up against the fence sometimes, but he struggles with power punchers. Markus Perez on the flip side of this thing, the best thing about this guy is that he makes a really good Joker. If you've seen him at the weigh-ins, he dresses up like the Joker. He dyes the hair. He's got the whole thing. He looks fantastic. He's strong against the cage. He's got these really great body locks. He is heavy, heavy body kicks, big clinch knees himself. He's got really good head movement. He circles out and cuts angles. He fires these big, wild punches that against better competition, maybe he'll pay for, but not against somebody like Spicely. He also throws big spinning attacks, spinning elbows that can hurt people. When he gets on the mat, he scrambles well to stay up in top position, and he's got really dangerous submissions. This guy's an absolute finisher. So when he loses, those three losses on his record, let's read those off because he's really got a very specific type, okay? He lost by decision all 3 times to Eric Anders, Andrew Sanchez, and Wellington Turman. All of these guys were able to pin him up against the cage, take him down, stifle that offense, and if you can't do that, he's probably going to get you out of there. So these grinding, tough, durable fighters are the ones he loses to. Spicely ain't that. If Spicely tries to grind this guy, he's going to eat spinning elbows to the chin for the entire course of the evening. So I think this is a really good spot for Perez. Looks like some money has come in on Spicely, which makes me confused. And Perez is a minus 200 favorite. Like I said, I think it's chalky. I think that Perez is one of these guys that if you wanted to mix into a two-teamer parlay and stuff like that, I think he just gets it done. You know what I mean? And I will take every opportunity to fade a guy like Spicely. And yeah, irregardless, lost to Anders. Ouch. I kind of agree. I kind of see what you're saying. It's not a great look when you lose to a guy like Eric, your boy Anders. However, what Eric, your boy Anders does really well is absorb damage, and he's really physically freaking strong. So if this guy wasn't ever able to get him to the mat, he had no option but to stand with him, and Eric was able to just kind of bully him around. And that's how he loses. It's the same thing that he lost to Andrew Sanchez. Same thing. Very limited fighter, but what he does well is the issue for Perez. So again, if we are looking at that prototype of fighter, that's the type of guy that Perez loses to. That ain't Spicely. So I'm not overly worried about it. All right, let's keep this rolling. Nicholas, you had me at parlay. Love it. All right. We're going to try and fire through this thing, everybody. Trying to be a little bit quicker this evening so we don't have another 2-hour show. And honestly, a lot of these breakdowns this week are going to be relatively simple. So because of that, I think we can save a little bit of time. 363 live viewers. What's up, folks? Thank you very much for tuning in and hanging out with me here at odds.com. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast brought to you by Odds HQ, where we teach positivity, underdog betting, and we just try to have a damn good time while we make some money. So let's get into this thing. Ray the Taz Mexican Devil Borg. I just feel so dang bad for this guy, all right? He's had a really rough go of it, both in the UFC and in his personal life. I wish he would catch a break, and this might be that break that he could catch. So Ray Borg is a 125-pound fighter who can't make weight. That's his issue. He belongs at 125. At 125, he's a potential title challenger. He's just a dominant, wrecking ball down at 125. But at 135, he is severely undersized. And when he faces somebody who is strong in the areas that he's supposed to succeed in, which be the grappling, he's in trouble. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Pump the brakes. DJ, the Werdum pick got 3 G's on DK, buddy. That is what I'm talking about. Congratulations on that cash. I love it. Whoo! All right, back to the breakdown. So Ray Borg, he's a chain grappler. That's all this guy does. Wrestle, 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 wrestle. He breaks people's spirits because he will just continue. It's not that first takedown attempt that gets it. If you stuff that first takedown attempt, he's going for an ankle. If you step out of that ankle, he's going for a body lock. If you hip out of that body lock, he's hitting a trip. It's the third, the fourth. He just never stops with these takedown offense. And if you can't keep up with that, eventually your ass is going to hit the mat. And the biggest problem with that is that even if your ass hits the mat and you pop right back up, he's going to catch you again. He's just going to sit you right back down on the mat. And that eventually wears on people. They just get exhausted trying to keep up with this pace. Vannata plays Borg is 26. So he's not even in his fighting prime. This kid can still improve. He can still get better. And I see Dominic cashing Werdum at plus 1,000 by sub. Oh my God. Yes. I love it. I love it. So I love Ray Borg. Ray Borg is a bet on fighter for me. Absolutely. Except at 135. It gets really hard to bet this kid at 135. We saw him the last time out taking on Ricky Simone, and Simone was just too much for him because Simone was Ray Borg, only a little bigger. So even though Simone doesn't have the grappling offense of Borg, he was able to defend those takedowns because he was just too damn big, too damn strong, and was able to make this thing a striking match. And you know what? Borg's striking is really improved. I was stunned by the striking that he showed off against Simone. He's got some slick footwork. He's got some heavy hands, really sharp boxing. And it's just something we had never seen out of him before because he was so grappling dominant in all of his other fights. So I really like Ray Borg here. We're welcoming Nate Maness to the UFC. He's an 11-1 prospect, and he's actually a legit fighter. So don't get me wrong here. Maness is a solid prospect. This guy has a solid a base here. I mean, 5 decision wins, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions, nice balance here. He can go the distance. He can finish it fast. He knows what he's doing. And he's got really good movement, really good in and out, good sharp boxing himself. He's going to have a height and reach advantage here. He's got fast hands, and he rips to the body, which you all know if you've been with me for a while. Body shots are something that I really love. When I look to bet on somebody and they rip the body, big ups. I'm like, yes, because that's just banking damage for the later rounds. That sucks out the gas tank, that weakens you, that slows you down. In round 3, you just don't have it the way you're used to having it, and it's because of those body shots. So very intelligent work from this kid. The only issue I've seen so far is that he can overextend. He gets a little excited, and he takes these big winging shots that can absolutely be countered by somebody who knows what they're doing, but he hasn't fought at the high enough level yet to make that be something he's had to pay for. He does have heavy hands, and he does defend takedowns with submission attempts, guillotines, front chokes. He's got a good get-up game, but honestly, in my opinion, that plays straight over to Borg. So if Borg gets in on your legs and you're telling me you're going to try and grab his neck instead of getting your hips back and getting down and defending that takedown, no. If you defend a choke on Borg, Borg ain't getting choked out. You're going on your ass. And then you've got a good get-up game, that's fantastic. I love to see a good get-up game. Maybe I'll bet on you next time, but if you've got a good get-up game against Borg, that just means you're going right back down. So all I can look to is Ray Borg in this spot. He's a minus 220 favorite right now. It's a little chalkier than I would like for him to be, especially up at 135, but that's really all you can do here. I don't see enough from Nate. All I've seen from Nate is striking. There are very, very few fights where he has fought grapplers. So because of that, he's facing a huge, huge step up in the fight in general, and especially in the grappling department, that we just don't know if he's going to have the cardio, the conditioning, or the ability to defend the takedowns of Borg for a full 15 minutes. I think Borg probably grinds this one out. I wouldn't be surprised if after the showcase he had his last time against Simone, maybe he goes to his boxing a little bit more. And with the speed and the movement that I saw from Borg, I think he can counter Maness. I think he can clip Maness in spots that Maness isn't used to being hit. Borg is going to have a speed advantage here because he's going to be the smaller fighter. So yeah, I'm Borg here. I don't have a bet on this one so far. I don't think we've talked about any of the bets that I'm on this week. Nope, we haven't gotten there yet. And those are 2 spots that, again, I think Borg and I think Perez, these are parlay pieces, and those 2 guys I'm considering sticking together. At minus 200 and minus 220, you can get about even money on that kind of a parlay, and I really feel like this week, it's just going to be parlay pieces. If you can get 2 of these 2-to-1 favorites and just kind of stick them together to get even money, keep that risk and reward ratio low, do 3 parlays, you've got 6 fights worth of action that you're betting on, but you're only risking 3 units, that kind of a situation. I think that's a good way to look. Round robins this week, that could be fun. Moving on up, we've got Ed Short Fuse Herman taking on Gerald GM3 Meerschaert. Here's our first betting piece of the evening. I love Short Fuse. All right, The Ultimate Fighter got me into MMA. I'm one of those people. I was the right age. It was on TV at the right time. I followed it religiously, watched every single season. My poor wife, then girlfriend, had to sit and watch The Ultimate Fighter on every single Wednesday on Spike TV with me because I refused to miss an episode. I'm not joking. So Ed Short Fuse Herman, one of my favorite fighters, but this boy's knocking on the door. You know my rule. We don't bet 40-year-old fighters unless we've got a damn good reason to do so. Now, we found a damn good reason with Fabricio Verdum last week. I don't see a damn good reason here. Short Fuse is 25-14. He's got a ton of finishes, 13 submissions, 7 knockouts. Dude is dangerous as all hell. However, he's 3-2 in his last 5. He lost 2 decisions. He lost 2 decisions against CB Dalloway, who's retired these days and getting knocked out on the regional scene, Gian Villante, who's one of the worst UFC fighters on the roster, lost a split there. And then he got knocked out by Nikita Krylov. Since then, he's knocked out Patrick Cummings, who is no longer in the UFC, and is a complete chinny fighter that we've known for a very, very long time. And he ground out a decision over Kadis Ibragimov. Kadis is not UFC caliber, and he's just durable. So neither of these wins are overly impressive to tell me that Ed Herman's back. So I know he's on a 2-fight win streak, but he's been fighting really soft competition, and he's been struggling with soft UFC competition. Ed Herman is a former 185-pound fighter. When he came back after his layoff, he's just too big now. He's too old. He doesn't want to cut the weight, so he's up to 205, but he's not really a 205er. He's not big enough to be a 205er. He's a 185er moonlighting and having a retirement circuit up at the light heavyweight division where he can beat some bums and get a couple paychecks. He's still got heavy hands, though. Love you too, Anthony. He's still got heavy hands. And that's really the only fear that we have here, right? Because Gerald Meerschaert is on a real quick turnaround. He got knocked out by Ian the Hurricane Heinisch just last month. And it was a first-round knockout. But you know what? It was a bit of a referee stoppage. It wasn't a bad knockout. And we talk about this. We've got to analyze this. Not all knockouts are equal, right? So he didn't get bombed on by Anthony Rumble Johnson or Francis Ngannou and was like staring up at the lights and just, eyes rolled back. That's not the kind of knockout that he suffered here. He got pieced up by the Hurricane and he covered up and he was on the ground like this and the referee stopped him. As soon as the referee comes in and puts his hands on him, you see him pop his head up and do this. Trust me, he wasn't feeling good, but it also was not a crushing knockout. And Ian is a guy who's a fringe title challenger, in my opinion. I love Ian the Hurricane Heinisch. He's got all the skills. He's got heavy hands. He's fast. He hits hard. He's a package for me. So Gerald Meerschaert loses to him. This is a big step down, folks. I know he's coming in on short notice, but I think he's ready for a fight, and he wants to wash the taste out of that loss out of his mouth. He's coming up a weight class, but he matches Ed Herman size for size, reach for reach, because Ed Herman is a 185er. So it's not that he's actually coming up a weight class. He's really fighting a guy that's his size. Gerald Meerschaert is 31 and 13. He's 32 years old, so he's got a 7-year age difference. He's got really improved striking, and I know that's not what we remember seeing from the Ian Heinisch fight, but in his other fights against guys like Eric Anders, Trevin Giles, Darren Wynn, he's striking with those guys. He's doing very, very well with his boxing. The only knock against him is he can be a bit of a slow starter, but that's not really a concern against Ed Herman. Ed Herman's a guy that fires these 1 or 2 big shots at a time. He doesn't have volume striking. So if this was Abu Dhabi, this would be a smash bet on Gerald Meerschaert because of the volume. He's gonna out-volume Ed Herman for sure. I think if Gerald can stay safe and stay on the outside, he'll be able to pick away at Ed Herman. On top of that, I think he'll be able to get in and get some takedowns. Ed Herman is not a big old boy compared to Gerald Meerschaert. They're the same size. I think Gerald's going to be able to get this fight to the mat, especially in rounds 2 or 3 when he's the fresher fighter, because Ed Herman does slow down, and he is 39 years old. He's on the decline. He's sliding a little bit, and if Gerald makes him work in the first reckoner in the first round or in the second round, I think Ed's going to be huffing and puffing by round 3. Gerald should be able to get this thing, or he might even get a submission win. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Meerschaert chokes out Ed Herman late in the fight when he runs out of gas. So we've got Gerald Meerschaert. We have got him parlayed up with a fighter a little bit later on the card. So let's go ahead and put a pin in that. And we are going to go ahead and move on. Well, you know what? I got to tell you the odds first, though, don't I? So looking over here, minus 185. I locked him up at minus 182. So not a whole lot of line movement. That opportunity is still right there for you if you're looking to get in on it. Grateful Dude says GM3 by sub. I'm going to be looking at the props when they come out because that is not a bad angle to play this one. Yep, Paul Craig is nasty in that jiu-jitsu game, baby. Got to love it. Just catching up with the chat here. Ken, let's go Calderwood. Jojo, my girl. Yep. All right. Getting caught up on the chat. We broke the 400 mark. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. Oh, I love it. 400 live viewers for the Die Hard MMA podcast. Thank you all so much. Do me a favor. Hit the sub button for Odds HQ if you haven't already. We're trying to grow this bad boy, and now that sports are back, we're going to be covering everything else, so not just MMA. By the way, we've got MMA straight until October, folks. October! We got a 1 week break next week, and there's a Bellator card on that 1 week break, and then after that it is non-stop until October. So buckle in. We're going to make some freaking money for the rest of this year. COVID going to pay me. Our next fight, we've got Frankie Saenz taking on Jonathan Martinez. This is a strange fight for me. I'm a little bit confused. So Frankie Saenz, he's another one of these aging veterans, 39 years old. We're talking about that 40-year-old age. It's a problem. It's not a good thing. He's got heavy hands, though, and he's got this really solid wrestling base. He's actually a wrestling coach, I guess. He wings these big overhand rights. He's your classic wrestle boxer, right? Club and sub people, get the takedown, rough them up, big ground and pound, big body kicks. He feints his level changes, and that threat of the takedown, we've talked about that before. It opens up opportunities for your striking because your opponent is constantly dropping their hands thinking they're going to go ahead and defend that shot, but then that overhand comes and bink. So his last fight, he was on a 3-fight winning streak. He somehow managed to eke out a split decision win over Merab Dvalishvili back in 2017, which I don't think he won. I think Merab should have got the nod on that fight, but it was close. It was competitive, so good on you. He gets a solid, absolutely earned decision win over Enrique Briones, which is not a bad win for a fighter at the tail end of their career. And then the UFC used him as a stepping stone against Marlon Chito Vera. We knew that one wasn't going his way. He gets TKO'd in the first round as expected. It looked like there was 2 weight classes between those guys. No idea how he ever thought signing up for that fight was a good idea. He was massively undersized, and that was a landslide as it should have been. So now he's taking on Jonathan Martinez. Martinez is 11-3, 26 years old, so he's one of these young up-and-coming prospects that is just starting to get into his prime. And one of these bet-on-looking fighters that we kind of want to keep our eye out for, except he's got to prove it to me still. So he's got a very offensive, forward-striking, forward pressure style, fires heavy leg kicks. He works that low calf kick, which that's money in the bank, just like those body shots are. He's got big knees, and because he's long, tall, and rangy, he's one of these guys that can fire that knee off from a spot that you're not expecting it. You can walk straight into a knee to your jaw if you're not looking for it with Jonathan Martinez. And he's willing to throw down. We saw that in his fight with Andre Ewell. We saw that in the fight with Andre Ewell, that he is willing to just stand in the pocket and trade. So kid's got a good chin. Kid's willing to throw down. I like it. He defends takedowns, however, with chokes, which every once in a while he will give up those spots. And he definitely gives up takedowns on the second and third efforts. Now, we've got an interesting spot here. Not something that we talk about a whole lot, but I feel like it's worth mentioning here, is that Martinez is a southpaw. What that means is that he's a left-hand dominant fighter. Frankie Saenz is a normal or orthodox striking fighter, and that's going to open up a couple of different opportunities. So instead of them looking like mirror images of one another, Frankie Saenz is going to have the opportunity for that lead single leg. And Jonathan Martinez is going to have a wide open channel for a big body kick. So if your back leg is firing when you're fighting an opponent that's got an opposing style as you don't have to worry about them being able to get that leg up to defend the body kick. Your abs, your ribs, it's all wide open. So that's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. My bet on this fight is that Frankie Saenz is just going to rely on the grappling. And with that front leg being available to him, I think he's going to pin Martinez up against the fence. I think he's going to chain grapple. I think he's going to get him down. Now the question is, does he have enough gas in the tank to do that for 15 minutes? Because once this thing gets on the mat, I don't see Frankie Saenz finishing Jonathan Martinez. So this is a weird spot for me. Martinez is currently a minus 210 favorite. Frankie Saenz is a plus 175 underdog. And I'm tempted. I think that Frankie Saenz is going to make this very close, very competitive. The back of my head tells me that the younger fighter is going to manage to squeak this one out. So I think Jonathan Martinez probably wins, but I think there's going to be some value on the plus line on Frankie Saenz, especially later in the week when everyone's hammered Martinez to death. I think Saenz may get all the way up to plus 210, plus 225, something like that. And this will be a later on fight. This is one we're going to have to revisit maybe on the post weigh-in breakdown, see what kind of shape Frankie's coming in. Because if he's coming in proper, he might be able to grind out a win against Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez is still a young fighter. He still has holes in his games. And even though Frankie Saenz is getting older, he's got the exact perfect style to expose those holes in this spot. And we're in the small cage, folks. We're back in the small cage. Grapplers are favored in the small cage. So maybe an underdog bet on Frankie Saenz later in the week. We'll see. We got to put a pin in that one. We will bounce back to that one, especially on the weigh-in show that I do on Friday. Speaking of the shows that are coming up, so as always, Die Hard MMA Podcast is 7:30 Eastern Time on Mondays. Thank you all so much for tuning in. But tomorrow we've got the roundtable. My boys Mo Scream, Boston Nick, Guru. We always do the roundtable, and we've had kind of a revolving guest on the other side. Just Bleed MMA has been joining us a couple times. I'm sure I think he's going to be on again tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly, but we're all going to be live breaking down these fights again tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for that. Thursday, I should have Total Madness up, which will be up on the Odds HQ YouTube channel. Friday's the post weigh-in video, and then of course the boys will be live streaming with the fights on Saturday. So make sure you dialed in. Our next fight is one that I'm very excited for. Kicking off the main card, Kevin Trailblazer Holland taking on Trevin Giles. Whoo! I am so excited for this fight, and we've got another parlay hinging on this one, and it's a big one, boys and girls. Kevin Trailblazer Holland is 17-5, and this kid has everything. Kevin Holland is a fighter that I've had my eye on for quite some time, and I have been waiting for him to just put it all together. Turn that corner, throw that bad young man's fight IQ out the window, and level up. And you know what? He has done just that. He's taken on Trevin Giles, who is another one of these fighters who has all the pieces you could ever ask for and just continuously shits the bed. I love betting against Trevin Giles. Kevin Holland is a 185er who is working on dropping to 170. He said after his last fight that he's going to be ducking down to 170 pounds, but he saw a good opportunity here to take this short notice fight up at 185. I expect him to come in here in shape, ready to go back at his old weight class, and honestly, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Kevin Holland is still going to be the bigger man. He is 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. Trevin Giles is 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. My boy Kevin Holland is going to have a 7-inch reach advantage, folks. That's over half a foot. It's freaking huge. He's the guy that when you're like, man, I wish I could reach the remote right now and I didn't want to move, he can reach the remote. He doesn't have to move. He's got such long arms. Kevin Holland just got promoted to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and his submission offense and his scrambles are one of the best parts of his game. The fact that he's leveled up and now he's a legitimate black belt, that's just music to my ears. He's somehow getting better. He's crisp on the feet. He's coming off of a huge KO win over Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I mean, this kid's the complete package. He's got absolutely everything that I want. And the fact that he's putting it all together makes him even more of a bet on than he ever has been before. Trevin Giles, solid wrestling, decent striking, good athlete. But you know what? He's been a little distracted lately. He's a police officer. With everything going on in the world, all the riots, all the stuff that's going on, trying to keep people in line with COVID, the mask wearing. Honestly, I wonder how much training Trevin Giles has done. I wonder what kind of shape he's coming in. I wonder if he's even fight ready. I know Kevin Holland is fight ready. And even on the best day for Trevin Giles, he still makes just horrific choices. Let's go back a couple fights. He's 1-2 in his last 3. Against Zach Cummings, he was working that fight all the way until round 3, when in the last minute of the fight, he dove himself straight into a guillotine against the black belt. again against Gerald Meerschaert. He was doing great in that fight. If he was able to keep that fight standing, he had good success against Gerald Meerschaert. He was mixing in the takedowns, putting him on his back, and then, just kind of letting him back up, that kind of thing. And then he dives into a submission against a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt when he gassed out in the third round. I'm seeing a trend here. Then he takes on James Krause. Now, James Krause, I believe, was a late replacement in that fight, and he manages to squeeze out a split decision win against James Krause. I don't think he's squeezing out shit this fight. He's going to be taking on Kevin Holland, another extremely high-level grappler. He's going to be at a reach disadvantage on the feet, so he's going to get pieced up on the feet. When this fight hits the mat, he's going to get out-scrambled by Holland, and we know Giles gasses out. So when Giles gasses and Holland has 2 more tanks of gas in the tank, I think it's Holland by sub, folks. I absolutely think it's Holland by sub. Giles is a tough dude. He's only been finished by submission so far, but both of his losses have come by submission, and now he's taking on another fighter that's fully capable of doing that. He's a parlay piece. Kevin Holland is in my big parlay for the night. I love this guy. I was waiting for this line to drop eagerly, licking my chops, and I think a submission is totally possible here, but he's getting so dang good on the feet that a knockout is totally possible as well. On top of that, he's a short notice replacement. Maybe he just grinds out Giles, so he really could get it done any way he wants to. Submission is most likely in my opinion, but I'm going to parlay him because I just think he gets the damn thing done. He is currently sitting as a minus 220 favorite. And it looks like that line's been ping-ponging around a decent bit. He got bet early on and got bet all the way up to a minus 280. And honestly, that's more where I agree with the line. I'm really surprised at the money coming in back on Giles the other direction. I know a lot of people see the physical advantages. Not advantages in this particular fight, but they see what Giles is working with athletically speaking. And I think that's something that people bank on. But I think this is a really bad matchup for him. I don't think Trevin Giles has an advantage anywhere in this fight, and I especially think that his biggest weakness is something that's just going to get a light spotlighted on against a guy like Kevin Holland here. Let's put that one behind us. Let's move on. We've got a rematch, folks. Rematch. Lando Groovy Vannata taking on Bobby King Green. And I have already sworn off of this fight. I have to tell you straight out right now, I can't bet this fight. I simply can't. I'm protecting myself. I'm protecting you. Do yourselves a favor. Pour you a drink of your favorite beverage. Get your favorite snack. And just enjoy this fight because it's going to be a banger. Both of these guys have super, super high volume, all right? Bobby Green is a guy who looks so solid against everybody he fights, but he fights to the level of his competition. So if he's fighting a top 10 fighter, he looks like a top 10 fighter. If he's fighting a retirement Clay Guida, he fights to the level of retirement Clay Guida. I mean, he looks like he belongs with the best in the world, but he finds ways to lose, and that's a huge problem for me. You can't be finding ways to lose and be looking for me to bet on you. He got robbed a couple times. I bet on him when he fought Francisco Trinaldo, and he absolutely won that fight, in my opinion. The Drakkar close fight, similar story. He very well could have won that fight as well. So, I mean, he could be on a 4-fight win streak right now. Bobby Green is getting a little disrespected here by this line, in my opinion. They've got him. They opened up as a pick'em, and money is coming on Vannata. He's a minus 130 favorite right now. And Vannata throws these flashy spinning stuff, all right? He's constantly moving around, big spinning kicks. He attacks constantly with his legs. Always kicks, always kicks. He keeps the range really well, and he's one of these guys that's not afraid to just literally turn his back and sprint to get away from his opponent to reset that range. While that doesn't look good, while those of us that are fight fans are like, come on, bro, like, it's a valid strategy. It's a legitimate strategy. So, can't fault him there. Now, the biggest piece of information that we've got for this fight really is going to be that first fight, right? Like I said, it's a rematch. These boys went to a split decision. Now, Vannata had full control of that fight. I'm sorry, it went to a split draw. I apologize, it went to a split draw. Vannata was getting the better of Bobby Green and then hit him with an illegal shot that cost him a point in the first round. And that's the only reason this thing went to a draw. Vannata won that fight 2-1. but because of that point deduction, it ended up costing him, and now we got the draw, right? So if we take that illegal knee out of the equation, Bobby Green's got another L on his record, and even though he fought relatively well, it's not one that we can dispute. So I think Lando Vannata probably does deserve to be the favorite here. He's the rightful favorite in this spot, and I get it. I'm okay with it. But I also feel like Bobby Green is doing a better job of putting things together a little bit lately. And Lando Vannata is a guy that I question his fight IQ. Sometimes he makes some really stupid choices. So I can't bet on him. I don't know. Like I said, this is a complete pass for me. I think the smaller cage also favors Bobby Green. So if you're looking for a slight dog, if you've got to have that action, I guess I lean to Bobby Green in this spot. Just because with the smaller cage, it's going to force Lando Vannata to engage. He won't be able to circle out quite as much, and he won't have that distance management that we're used to. Bobby Green will be able to get in close on him, and Vannata will have nowhere to go. So I think that changes the dynamic a little bit. We will see what happens. I can't put a bet on this fight because of everything that's going on. Maybe when we talk Total Madness, we look at where they set the line there for the total, because I got a feeling this one's going to a decision. Here we go. Vicente Luque taking on Randy Rude Boy Brown. This is fight of the night, folks. I'm calling it right now. This is your fight of the night. Vicente Luque, the silent assassin, is a guy who... How do I say this? He's an incredible top-tier talent. And I want to fade him. I'm looking for my opportunities to fade Vicente Luque. I think that cliff is coming. I think he's been in too many wars. He's taken too much damage. And eventually, he's going to succumb to all of that, and he's going to get put down by somebody. I thought Nico Price was my boy. I thought Nico Price was the man to get it done. But he somehow managed to come up short in that last match, and Vicente Luque got a very impressive third-round TKO after a huge, huge battle with my boy Nico Price. Now, that fight was back in May, guys. May. So he's only had a few months to recover. And let's take a look at some of these numbers. Now, remember, numbers in MMA sometimes lie. But in some cases, they are absolutely writing on the wall. So Vicente Luque absorbed 129 significant strikes from Nico Price. 129. That is a lot of strikes. He only landed 130 himself. That was a 50-50 fight as much as I have ever seen one. He just managed to find the button a little bit faster than Nico did. Before that, he fought Wonderboy Thompson, and he absorbed 138 significant strikes. Which, coming from Wonderboy, damn, bro. This chin is gonna crack, y'all. Mike Perry hit him with 87 significant strikes. Before that, he had a fight with Brian Barberena where he absorbed 169 significant strikes. That chin is going to crack. I mean, Vicente Luque has some of the best skills we've seen in MMA. Good output. Incredible striking. He's a black belt. He's got good cage control, decent wrestling. I mean, he's a solid fighter. But he just gets into these wars. And eventually it's going to take a toll on him. I mean, he's only 28 years old. You can't fight like this for that long. Randy Rude Boy Brown coming in here. He's 30 years old. He's hitting his prime. 12-3. Coming off back-to-back wins. Showed off his, I think he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Even if he's not, he's got super high-level skills. Coming off a submission from his back where he choked out Warley Alves. Really impressive spot there. He had a TKO win over Brian Barberena, which, yeah, I know Brian Barberena is not what he used to be. But still, Randy Brown packs a punch, all right? And he's going to be at a decent size advantage here as well. Vicente Luque is 5'11", with a 75-inch reach. Randy Brown is 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. So it's a 3-inch reach advantage, but he's going to be able to do a little bit more with that since he's got the height advantage as well. He's a guy that knows how to fight long. He uses that range extremely well. He's got a great gas tank. He mixes in flying knees. He's got good head movement. He works behind his jab the way I like to see. He's calm and he's patient. And that's the kind of killer instinct that I like. He's extremely calm. He waits for his spots and he sets stuff up. And that's where I know a lot of people are going to talk about how he's bad on the ground, right? People are going to talk about the fact that he accepts bottom control. But he sets up his submissions extremely well, and he showed that in the Warlley Alves fight where he got the triangle choke. And a lot of people might point to the fact that Vicente Luque can take this fight down to the ground. However, Vicente Luque has not landed a takedown since 2017. It's been 3 years since Vicente Luque shot a takedown. I always talk about how you cannot count on these fighters to do something different from what we've seen in the past. You can't come out here and be like, well, if he would just throw more. Darren Till's a perfect example of that. I was talking with my boys at Pub Sports Radio. They wanted Darren Till to throw more. The fact is, he doesn't. The reason we bet Robert Whittaker is we knew that Robert Whittaker would outland Darren Till. We knew that Darren Till was going to sit back and pick his shots and be a slow, plodding fighter looking for the knockout. He wasn't going to have volume in that fight. That's what we've got here with Vicente Luque. This guy goes to war. He likes to brawl. He wants to taste blood. And he hasn't shot a takedown in a long time. So because of that, I'm not expecting him to come out here and shoot a takedown. Now, maybe he proves me wrong. Maybe Vicente Luque suddenly lands a takedown and is the most boring fighter we've ever seen for the first time in years and just grinds Randy Brown out for 15 minutes. It could happen. It could happen. But I don't think it does. I think Vicente Luque gets into another war. I think he brawls. I think he gets in there with Randy Brown. And Randy Brown is ready and waiting for a war. Vicente Luque is on a relatively short turnaround. This will be his second COVID-era fight. And he's coming off of massive amounts of damage in that first one. So I don't know how much he will have healed and recovered from that. Randy Brown, however, we haven't seen this guy since November of 2019. He's taken a nice, long, chunky break here, and he's the right age to be improving. We talk also from time to time about how fighters, they don't improve when they're on that churn and burn. They're not working on new skills. They're not working about new strategies. They're just fighting. And I think that's what Luque is doing. He's staying busy, and because of that, he's probably not changing his strategy. He's not working on new skills. He's just keeping sharp what he already does. Randy Brown, on the other side, has had time. That if he wanted to develop a skill set, if he wanted to develop a game plan, he's had the time and the opportunity to do so. I got to take the shot, folks. This is my dog. This is my dog of the night, and I am taking the shot on Randy Brown. Right now, he's sitting out there around plus 150, the comeback minus 170 on Vicente Luque. I locked him up at, I think, plus 160? Yes, I got Randy Brown at plus 160. I think this fight ends violently. Just like all of Vicente Luque's last couple of fights, and Randy Brown's last couple of fights, these boys are going to war. And the way they fight in that small cage, that's beautiful, beautiful violence. Music to my ears. Someone is going to sleep. And I think it's going to be Vicente Luque. We are here, folks. We're at the co-main event of the evening, and we are moving tonight. Usually the show is right around 2 hours long. We're going to be about an hour and a half tonight. Save everybody a little bit of time. 437 live viewers. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast brought to you by Odds.com. Do me a favor, head over to Odds.com. Check out all the stuff we've got going on there, and subscribe here to Odds HQ on YouTube. Please and thank you very much. My name is Clint at Die Hard MMA Pod over on Twitter. Give me a follow. We have got JoJo Calderwood taking on Jennifer Maia. And you know what, Maury? That's okay. I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you all something that I try to remind everybody. It is okay to disagree. We are all about positivity here. Positive vibes. Being a community. Trying to make money betting on MMA and loving our sport, the best sport in the world. And a lot of times we will disagree. When it comes to sports betting, when money's on the line, people get heated, people get emotional. It doesn't have to be that way. If you think Luque is going to win, you bet on him and he wins. I will high five you, my friend. There are no hard feelings if we don't agree or if we're not on the same bet. So do me a favor. When you're out there on Twitter, I know MMA Twitter can be a toxic place. Make sure you don't contribute to that toxicity. Make sure you don't attack people, call them morons, call them idiots for having a different opinion than you. Sports betting literally exists because people see value on both sides of the line. Engage in good discussions. If people are toxic, block them. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Maury, my friend, if you bet Vicente Luque, good luck to you. Jojo Calderwood was slated to face Valentina Shevchenko for the belt. When Valentina Shevchenko went down, Jojo could have stayed on the sidelines. She could have waited for her moment, her opportunity, the title shot she has been looking forward to forever. But that's not the kind of girl she is. She's getting right back in there. My girl JoJo is getting right back in there and earning that number one spot. She's coming in here on short notice to take on Jennifer Maia, who's a dangerous high-level black belt, solid boxing, one of the thicker fighters that's got that ground control. If she gets you to the mat, you can be in a little bit of trouble. She wings these big overhand hooks, big overhand punches, that club and sub opportunity. She's mixed in leg kicks to her game. That's something that we can't overlook. And if she gets you on the mat, heavy top control. Jennifer Maia is a solid fighter. Joanne Calderwood is 14-4. Jennifer Maia is 17-6-1. And if you haven't noticed already, I love my girl JoJo. I'm all Team Savage. Jillian Robertson has my heart. She's my number one girl. JoJo is number two. She's the sweetest thing, and she's one of these fighters who flips that switch. She is so adorable. She's sweet in her interviews. She's got a really adorable accent coming over from Scotland. And then she gets mean. Just like Rob Whittaker. As soon as it's fight time, as soon as that fight is on, she is mean, and I love it. She's a high-volume striker, extremely solid defensively when it comes to the striking acumen, and she's incredibly underrated. She's been underrated her entire career. We have cashed in on her multiple times where she has simply been overlooked. And I'm so impressed with her for coming in here and taking this spot instead of sitting out and waiting for that title shot. So JoJo Calderwood averages 6.19 significant strikes per minute. That is a high work rate. Man, she only absorbs 4.31. So she is literally outlanding her opponents by damn near 2 significant strikes a minute. Love those numbers. Fantastic numbers. Now, she's only got a 55% takedown defense rating, which against someone like Jennifer Maia is concerning. However, Calderwood never slows down and she never stops. She has a good get-up game. She's smart against the fence. She can break and she can clinch away from people. And honestly, I think her grappling is heavily improved. She had recent fights against Cynthia Calvillo. I know that was a little while ago, but she fought Cynthia Calvillo where she showed off some decent get-up game, and then she fought Andrea KGB Lee recently, and she's a tough takedown artist. She only gave up 3 takedowns to KGB, and then she actually flipped it around, landed 2 on her own. So I think Joanne Calderwood is knowing that she needs to work that wrestling. I think she knows that she needs to improve in that area, and she has been working on it. So even though we've got the smaller cage here, and that's going to favor someone like Jennifer Maia, I think Joanne Calderwood just has her outgunned on the feet. She's going to outwork her. Joanne Calderwood also knows how to sit down on those punches. She's going to do some damage, and I think she's going to keep it at a range where Maia is going to struggle. That closes out the first parlay of the night, folks. Gerald Meerschaert parlayed with Joanne Calderwood at minus 186. That gives us a line of plus 138. Those lines have moved ever so slightly. Joanne Calderwood is actually now a minus 180 favorite. Nope, minus 190 favorite. There it is. Got to refresh this page, apparently. Jojo Calderwood is down to minus 190, so the odds are going to be just a little bit less than that. You'll probably get around plus 130, something like that if you mix up that parlay. But I really like that spot. Like I said, I think you can pick a lot of these 2-to-1 favorites, mix and match them, maybe round robin them, that kind of thing, and you'll be able to get even money or slightly plus money on them. And on top of that, the nice thing is you've got a low risk for a decent chunk reward, and you can spread that across multiple fights. So you can risk less units this week and still have that sweat that you need on every single fight, because we all know that's what we're doing here, degenerates. I love you guys. So I'm fully expecting JoJo Calderwood to get in here and do the damn thing and then get right back to her title shot against Valentina Shevchenko. I think Jennifer Maia is going to be a bump in the road. Even though Jennifer Maia has a solid skill set, I think she is a limited fighter and she's got a glass ceiling. I don't expect her to get by my girl JoJo. It's main event time, folks. We lost our main event. Holly Holm was supposed to headline this thing, and her opponent popped for COVID, so that is no longer happening. These boys are filling in. Derek Brunson taking on Edmen Shahbazyan for the main event, and honestly, to me, this one's more fun. Holly Holm can stop headlining for me. I don't need to see it anymore. I like Holly Holm. Put her in the co-main slot. She's not overly exciting these days. She doesn't really head kick anybody to death anymore, and she uses a lot of her grappling, a lot of clinch work. And while someone like me, I'm a MMA aficionado, I do appreciate it. I love to watch it. I understand the value of it. I don't need to see it for the main event. It kind of kills the vibe of the night. So I'm kind of happy these boys are the main event. We've got Derek Brunson, who is trying to reestablish himself here. He is 20-7, 36 years old. He's getting up there. He's getting up there. Irregardless, I am happy to hear that, my friend. Let's go. And we have got him taking on Edmen Shahbazyan. Edmen is the hottest kid on the block right now. 11-0, undefeated. Only 22 freaking years old. How is that even possible? This kid is capable of so much that it's unreal. It's scary. He's managed by Ronda Rousey. And the fact that Ronda, who's not, much of a, manager. The fact that she put her stamp of approval on this kid, that kind of says something, right? So Ronda's got this kid under her wing, thinks he's capable, thinks he's going to be something, and I completely agree. His boxing is on another level. He's got beautiful, crisp boxing, and he's got these heavy, heavy hands. Dude knocks out everybody left and right, and he's putting it together at the UFC level. He's got 9 KOs, 1 submission, and 1 decision. Derek Brunson on the flip side of this thing, he's kind of gotten away from the knockouts. He used to be this explosive, fast, exciting hammer of a fighter. And he's just kind of left that behind him. He realized that at the upper level, he's just going to get knocked out. And that's all he's done, right? He got TKO'd by Rob Whittaker back in the day. And then he gets knocked out by Jacare Souza. He gets knocked out by Israel Adesanya. He realized, okay, this isn't working. So Brunson has developed a decent little grappling game. And that scares me a little bit because we're in the UFC Apex, because we're in the smaller cage. He's going to have the opportunity to grapple and try and make this a dirty, boring fight. But at the end of the day, Brunson can't take a punch anymore, folks. He's 36 years old. I think the damage has been done. His knockouts were bad. They were really, really bad. I think he's just taken way too much damage, and the writing is on the wall. He's officially a gatekeeper. He's officially a stepping stone. I fully expect Edmen Shahbazyan to get in here and do the damn thing. Shahbazyan also has a very, very underrated grappling game. We just simply don't see it a lot. He knew exactly what he had to do in his UFC debut when he fought Darren the Dentist Stewart. Took that guy down 8 times. 8 times! Because he knew he had a better path to victory there. His IQ is unreal. Betting on these young fighters, it can be risky, it can be dangerous, because they don't quite know what they're doing, they don't have that experience. But this kid is something special. He's trained right, he's got this high-level IQ, he knows where his advantage is, and I think he's going to be able to box Derek Brunson up. I've got Edmen Shahbazyan parlayed with my Kevin Holland. And folks, we have the first ever 3 times bet on the Die Hard MMA podcast. As you all know, I bet 1 unit per bet, or I am laying whatever the favorite line is to win 1 unit. So I've been getting a lot of questions about this recently, and we've got, I'm going to go ahead and explain it. So if you've got a favorite that's a minus 150, you have to lay $150 to win 100. That's how that works. So if your unit is $100, everybody's unit size is different, so don't worry about that. But let's say your unit size is $100. If we're betting on an underdog, we've got that plus sign next to it. You bet 100 to win whatever the plus is. On the flip side, if you're laying it with a favorite, you're laying 150 to win 100. If they're minus 225, you're laying $225 to win 100. You keep it in that kind of bracket. Well, I don't go over 2 times plays. I realize that I open myself up sometimes when I go over and I have bigger plays than smaller plays. My smaller plays cash and the bigger plays don't, and then you end up still digging yourself a bit of a hole. But I'm throwing that out the window here. I've got this parlay that comes to minus 105, and I'm hitting it 3 times. So I'm laying 1.05 units 3 times. I'm risking 3.15 units to win 3 units on this parlay. Kevin Holland, Edmen, Shahbazyan. Edmen's going to get it done, and we're going to cash in big. I'm ready. I'm excited. This is going to be a damn fun card, folks. And there you have it. We have broken down the entire card in relatively record time. Holy cow. I told you guys that this breakdown was going to be simple. Unfortunately, this is a fight full of mismatches. It's a fight full of big favorites that should be big favorites, and underdogs are going to happen. Some underdogs are going to pop up. Probably 2 or 3 of them are going to cash. So be careful. Don't lay giant chalk and do like 4 and 5 leg parlays. If you do that every single week, guys, every single week, people are DMing me on Instagram, they're messaging me on Twitter, and they're just showing me the busted tickets, laying $500, $600, $700 on 4 leg parlays. Don't do it. Just don't do it. If you're going to do a parlay, low risk, big reward. Let it be a lottery ticket. Straight bets are the most successful way that you can possibly win sports betting. Because when you go 3-1, instead of losing all of that on the parlay that gets busted, you've got 3 winners to make up for that 1 loser. You still have a positive night. I know it doesn't sound as fun. You don't have that sweat of walking out of there with $25,000. But Vegas was built on parlays. I use 2-teamer parlays a lot. And we've got a pretty good record hitting them. But it's because we're only doing 2 legs. We find 2 people we're extremely confident in, and we pair them up so we can get around even money. And it's a safe bet to make, because even if it loses, we're only losing that 1 unit since we're right around that even money mark. That's the strategy I employ on parlays. And of course, if you want to put together a parlay and put $20 on it to win $3,000 or something like that, that's what I'm talking about. Get those long shot lottery tickets in there. Those are fun. I do those. I'm guilty. Everybody's got to look for that score, right? We are gambling after all, but be careful. Just be careful. That's all I ask. Oh, I just got to say thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. If it wasn't for you, the fans, the Die Hard MMA podcast wouldn't be a thing. Odds wouldn't be a thing. We owe it all to you guys. Thank you very much for tuning in with me today. We are going to keep an eye on a couple of these spots. I've got maybe 1 more 2-teamer parlay that I might put together. I've got 1 dog that I'm kind of looking at. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Keep an eye on my Twitter at DieHardMMAPod for those moves. And yeah, good luck on all your action. I know baseball, basketball are back. I know people are putting some action out there. So on a daily basis, we could be swinging. We could absolutely be swinging. So I hope you cash well. Good luck, everybody. Do me a favor and subscribe here. I'm going to go ahead and shout us out here. We've got Mixed Martial Arts Fan, Freddie Austin, JTMMA, Bill 808, DK Plays Bobby, Frunk, Danny Say Ho, Sean Tuma, Ryan Bottonelli. We've got, let's see here, the Voga Man, irregardless, Boston Nick MMA. Thank you for hanging out as always, my friend. UFC Betting Experience, Cool, The Fool. How is everybody doing? My boy Raj, Tank Abbott, Michael Lunday. Thank you all so much for tuning in and hanging out with me this evening. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you've got any questions, find me over on Twitter. Love interacting with you guys. I'm happy to chat. But as always, as the show grows, as this thing gets blowing up like it has been, I have every once in a while the opportunity to miss something, so please don't take it personally. If I miss your tweet or something like that, it's because I'm getting hammered, and unfortunately your boy still has a day job. So let's blow this thing up, and maybe eventually it won't be my day job. Maybe eventually this will be my day job, and all I'll do all day is answer your tweets. Thank you all very much again for tuning in with me. You have a wonderful night. Positive vibes. All love. Good luck on your bets. And as always,